Where do we start? Where do we start? Yo, shout out to everybody for following, man, the station, the pages, the socials. I love and appreciate all of you guys for finding this hidden gem, this treasure. I hope this has been inspiring and has brought some sort of insight and wisdom into your guys' lives, and in hopes that it guides you into your journey, fam. This is our life experiences, and so I hope that with what I've been sharing with you guys, it's brought you some sort of clarity and some sort of understanding of just what this whole this whole life thing is. So cheers to everybody. Kick back, grab your coffee, water, whatever. I know y'all are multitasking. Put me in the background, however y'all are doing it. But tap in, fam. Saludos to everybody. My coffee crew that's out here. Gang, gang. Salute. So, fam, this one is going to be about being born into a single parent home, specifically a single mother home, and even more specific, being a female, a girl, being raised by your mother. And that plays a lot of your characteristics when you're growing up and into your adolescence, into your 20s, and even into your 30s and so on. So if you haven't done the work to identify what traumas or issues that you can overcome, but if you haven't healed this part of yourself, you then repeat that same cycle that your parents have been doing for forever. And so that's why they call, chosen ones. It's because you then identify that cycle of repetitive toxicity, low vibrational things, and so on and so forth. You don't identify with that. Something in your heart and in your soul is telling you that this isn't my path, and I know I'm meant to do something bigger and greater for myself, and there's something more that my soul's yearning than this toxicity that exists around me. And so for any of my warriors that have experienced that at such a young age, man, it forces you to have to grow up faster, and that's exactly what happened with your girl. Is I was raised by my mother and my older sister, so there's two of us, so you can only imagine two girls trying to raise two girls, you feel me? And specifically an immigrant mother trying to raise two American girls. Man, that right there, that dynamic of, on top of different generations and different belief systems, man, you guys, for those who have experienced that here in the States, which is a very high population of a lot of American kids being raised in a single parent home, it's different when you have an immigrant family coming to the States, birthing, raising, and having American kids. It's another thing to be out where your family is originally from and being raised in that religious background there, where there's still some sort of foundation to follow. But being in the States and having two different, again, belief systems, there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of identity crisis that happens. And so that's exactly what has happened growing up. And, you know, on my mother's perspective, it's like being so, you know, being raised in a very religious background and only knowing that way. She's doing everything in her power to try and understand and kind of break out of that norm, but at the same time, as I was saying, going through this identity crisis where it's like, but if I step out of the norm, then the family's going to look at me crazy and different. And so you can only imagine, you know, her experience just trying to figure out, like, what do I do, you know, and how do I, you know, raise these two girls and just, you know, still have that foundation of that discipline. And so when you have that father figure that isn't there, that masculine energy that isn't there within that dynamic to balance it all out, people have to start making up their own minds on how to do this life thing, you know. And so, and what happens is then your mother has to become the father figure. She then runs through her masculine energy, having to work a double job or having to just like hustle hard, and, you know, is very driven because she has to pay the bills, she has to take care of the kids, she's got to take them to school, you know, not having that full support. Mind you, we're, you know, living in my grandparents' house at the time. And so, yeah, even that right there, it's like, man, so much. Luckily enough, there was that fatherly figure through my grandparents, but also through some of my uncles that were around at the time as well. But it's different in not having that your father figure there. So again, you know, especially where I'm originally from, your girl was raised in the hood too. And so even that dynamic of group of people that we were involved around, and a lot of, you know, being affiliated through family, through my like cousins and their friends, and, you know, it gets all mixed up. And so especially being a kid in the 90s, man, there was so much, you know, like chaos and tension and drugs, addiction, and, you know, like sex, money, all of that. And that was such an era. But at the same time too, like, don't get me wrong, being a 90s kid was like, man, there's no other era than the golden age, you know. There's no other era to been able to experience just so much of like life, the old ways of it, and it transforming into like what it is now. Man, it was such a fun time too. But back to not having that father dynamic, you as a child, you and especially if it's not coming from, you know, your mother, like the kids are gonna make up their own minds. They have to. No one's telling me how to do this. No one's allowing me to express what I'm feeling, you know. And so they're thinking, you know, scolding or disciplining and doing all of that is gonna work, and it doesn't, you know. And so, as I was saying, it has a lot to do with just religious factors, and being, you know, as I was saying, immigrant parents coming to the States and having American kids. It's just a whole other belief system. And so when you got two kids, you know, two girls specifically, just, you know, in their adolescence, like trying to figure out like, well, I want to hang out with, you know, my friends or like my cousins, and we're doing all these like crazy fun things that maybe we shouldn't be doing, but we're doing it, you know? And so you get caught up in that cycle of like, then you get caught up in getting into trouble, getting into things that just happens because, again, there's no discipline there in the household. And it puts, a toll on your mother's, just being, because she's trying her best to raise these two wild girls. And so, she, even within herself, it's putting her in a position where she feels as though she's failed, right? And how does that look on her when, living in our grandparents' home at a specific age? She was in her 30s and, trying to raise these two kids, trying to, even try to get a degree in whatever she was trying to do at the time, and it just wasn't working for her. And so all this was lifing on her, and it caused her to feel, defeated. And that does something to a woman, especially, again, like being the only parent, trying to be that male figure in the family. So it eventually drives your mother to being driven in her masculinity, and that's exactly what happened. And to the point where I even began to see her having her identity crisis of whether she wanted to, like continue to be straight as a female, or she wanted to try being a lesbian. And shout out to my LTBG community out here, because I love you guys. I have, it runs in my family, so I understand, and especially coming from a very religious background, like it puts a pressure on you, and you feel like you can't be yourself, you can't express yourself. So mentally and emotionally, yeah, my mother was going through a lot of trauma of her own that to this day it's hard for her to even express, and so later on in life, as kids, and as we get older and try and figure out what this whole thing is, it's like you then make decisions on your own, which I did which I did specifically. My older sister, it's a whole other story. It's crazy because, and I know that there's a lot of people that are out here too that have either a brother or sister that you can't even relate to also. And so when you guys even come together, it's hard to relate. You guys, people would never know that you're brothers and sisters. So that's exactly my dynamic. And when I knew, at a specific age, at like 15 and a half, where here in the States, you could get your driver's license, I right away was just like, yo, I'm going to set the tone for my life. I'm going to take control, because I have no idea what is going on in this family dynamic. I don't know why there's so much chaos. I don't know why and understand why people don't want to express themselves or allow us to even be vulnerable in that sense, why it's scary, or why we should brush things under the carpet and, be in this very, like, because it shows weakness. And so I come from, my family is a militant family. A lot of them have been in the Army and the Air Force, and so that also plays a factor, so it was very disciplined. It was very disciplined upbringing for your girl. And so that's what forced me to want to just open up, not feel so limited and just stuck in that one way of thinking and being about life, because something in my heart told me that there's something more than just being so stuck in this bubble. And so, as I was saying, as soon as I realized, like, 15 and a half, I can get my ID and driver's license, you best believe your girl got that. It took that, 2-week course, that class, and I got my license. And so by then I was like, okay, I want to make money. You feel me? Like, man, I was in this energy of, like, something inside of me, like, I had to grow up fast. I had to make my own decisions of, like, I don't want to see my mom suffering. I don't want to see her feel so burdened that she has to take care of 2 kids, you feel me? And on top of her own life experience and whatever she's got going on. And so you as a kid, you know, seeing that in your mother's eye, like her soul dying or whatever, her being hurt, that does something to you as a kid. And so I saw that and I was like, no. All right, we gotta change this up, you know. We gotta, like, and so that forced me into making my own decisions, getting my license, getting a job. Yo, my first job was, you know, working at KFC customer service, like up front. And so, and even in the serving industry at 16. And so yeah, so I knew, like, man, just getting my life together and having to step away from whatever this is that's going on in my family dynamic right now that isn't resonating for me and with me. There's something more for me that I gotta go search for. Something in my soul is telling me, like, man, this just is there's too much tension here. And, you know, again, as I was saying, like, when there isn't that masculine, that father figure dynamic, then you go through these phases of, like, abandonment issues. You go through these phases of, like, codependency as a girl, as a female, because we're searching for that masculine energy. And so that trickles into relationships. And yo, that's gonna be a whole other we'll talk about in another episode. We'll talk about, you know, when it comes to relationships and stuff and your girl's experience. But again, you're searching for that as a woman, as a female. You're searching for that comfort, for that safety that you've never felt. And so you have to teach yourself how to protect yourself. You have to then you become, not only that your mother is becoming, you know, in that masculine energy, it trickles on into us as girls. We have to figure out how to fend for ourselves. We have to speak up for ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. And so what happens then is we become driven in our masculine energy and we forget about our femininity. And so you best believe your girl was a tomboy growing up with the neighborhood kids, you know, getting into all the fun, like, things, like all the boys would be into, like riding bikes, playing sports, whatever, you know, shooting our squirt guns or playing video games and all of that. And so that's where, you know, myself and my sister were complete opposites. She definitely was in more of her feminine energy, and for whatever reason, yeah, I was just like, no, I wanted to be out and about. And, you know, she was very introverted, and so I was more of the extrovert. And so that even in itself, between her and I clashed. So that's a whole other story. But back to, you know, being in the single parent home, it takes a toll on both parties, on all parties that are in there, that is, you know, because of that masculine energy that isn't helping to balance out that full dynamic of what it is to really have that feminine and masculine energy being balanced out together. And as much as, you know, my grandparents or even my uncles tried to discipline us, like, it's just different, you know. It's not your father, like, telling you, like, hey, don't do that. It's your uncle. It's like your uncle is like your brother, your big brother, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, why would I take you serious? Why would I take you serious? And then it's like your grandparents, you know, it's like their grandparents are like, why would we take them serious? It's different. And so that was, you know, at the very least, that was your girls that was your girls, like, mentality, you know, like, why would I take them serious? Because they're just, you know, my grandparents. That's just my uncle, like, whatever, you know. And so to them, that's, you know, very rebellious, of course, like, coming from, you know, a religious background, as I keep saying, like, that plays a big factor. And so even too, that's, you know, a touchy subject that maybe we can talk about some other time, but that's a, yeah, we can talk about that some other time. But for this, it's like, you know, being that immigrant family coming to the States, raising American kids, it's a big identity crisis. And I never really understood and what that was. And so, mind you, I have two immigrant parents coming from two different countries. So I have a big, you know, family. There's 11 aunts and uncles on my mom's side of the family and 11 aunts and uncles on my dad's side of the family. And so I have a really big family, but even that too, it's like there's been a lot of issues within my family dynamic where everybody's been spread apart and hasn't, you know, really been so tight with each other, only within their own families that they have for themselves. And every now and then do I, you know, even speak to any of like my cousins or even my aunts from both sides. And so that in itself, I've always felt like I was, you know, like a only child, because a lot of the times it's like I wasn't able to like relate to a lot of the things. And so I chose different paths and ways of having to do and live my life. And so I wouldn't change it for anything. Would I ever want to go back to redo everything? No, I think, you know, we're given this life to experience what it is we're meant to be experiencing. And it's a matter of us, of, are we allowing, you know, these situations that we have no control over take over us, take over our emotions, take over and direct how we're supposed to continue to move on. You know, it's that lack mentality, it's that scarcity mindset, it's that poor me, that victimhood mentality, that's that low vibrational energy that your girl has never been able to understand. And to this day, I still don't understand. and so to me, you know, as I was saying, like, growing up in a single parent home and being driven even in my masculine energy, it trickles into relationships with people, and especially in relationships and like love relationships. And so a lot of guys will get in, I guess we're going to talk about this. A lot of guys will get intimidated by a very independent, strong female, not knowing that this is a normal thing for her. This is just normal in how she grew up, you know. And so there's a lot of guys out there that take that as a death to their ego, you feel me? It's like, then they become very overpowering and not understanding and trying to, you know, do things that just, whatever guys do when they are intimidated. There it is. I was trying to figure out the word. When they're intimidated by a strong, independent female that's done so much for herself. But it plays, you know, its role too of me allowing them to step over me like that, right? And so again, not having that father figure in your life as a girl growing up, guys will step over your boundaries. And so you kind of just like, okay, well, I don't know too much about what a healthy man looks like, you feel me? And so I can only kind of relate it to, you know, my grandparents and my uncles, but even then themselves are, you know, in their own situation. And so it's like I've never really seen a healthy relationship. And so that cycle trickles on and it becomes a cycle into my relationships. And until you have deciphered until you have become aware of this repeating pattern and the cycle that is continuing, you have the choice to stop it, be that chosen one to stop that family curse in your bloodline, or you continue that cycle, which many do. And so when you are that chosen one to cut that tie, to cut that family curse, you are now become what they call the black sheep. But what's cool and funny is I met a gal maybe a few weeks, last month sometime, and when I was explaining this to her, she was like, her question was like, but are we really the ones that are the black sheeps, or are they? And so it's true. So however we perceive that is how we perceive it. But in all reality, being raised in a single parent home, it puts you in a position where you are now, as a child, making decisions on your own. If you don't have that male discipline in your life, man, you're either setting yourself up with success or failure, and it could be both. And you just have to continue to allow those experiences and traumas and situations to happen, and you got to heal those spaces and times of your life so that you don't have to repeat that cycle being in your 20s and 30s, even in your 40s and 50s and 60s, fam. We still got adults out here acting like they're kids, stuck in that area of their life that they can never get themselves out of because of being vulnerable. And again, in specific religions, that showing weakness, it's like being vulnerable is showing weakness. And unfortunately, that's the most shittiest thing to ever implement in any of your children, because you are a human being. You are a human being, and you still have feelings and emotions, and you're allowed to feel these emotions and express these feelings. It's not healthy to shun your child when they're feeling a certain way. You feel me? When they're feeling upset inside, when they're feeling sad, lonely, or whatever they're going through, they're allowed to be able to feel what they're feeling. And because I didn't come from that, I thought, that's where my DNA was shifting, changing. I was becoming more in my masculine energy. And so that's what happens when you get caught up in religious factors in belief systems that worked in the past, that aren't working for a generation nowadays. And that's a whole other, conflicting issue when it comes to the different generation and us evolving into a higher consciousness that we are meant to be evolving into. And so with our parents' generation, it's hard for them to understand that, hey, it's okay to grow up. It's okay to not have to believe, that there's only one way to live this life, that the only way that was written for you guys was through this book of whoever decided to write that book. But it's okay that book was written. Now there's new books that are being written so that we can continue to evolve and push forward and move forward and grow with the times of our lives. The times of our lives. I think that was a soap opera back in the day. It was one of my favorite soap operas. But again, you eventually find your way as a kid, going through all these traumatic experiences that you have to. It's like you're fighting for your life at that point. You're trying to figure out why certain things and relationships and dynamics of everything in your life isn't working. And so you either get caught up in that matrix of repeating that same cycle, or you see it for what it is and you're like, all right, I know I don't want to be that, and I know that I don't want to continue that same cycle that my family is on. And so I'm okay with them looking at me like If y'all want to shun me, if y'all don't accept who I am, cool. Thank you for showing me who you guys are, for not supporting what I do. You feel me? And so, but you have to be in that position within yourself and knowing like you're okay to be judged that way. You're okay to be different. You're okay to look different. You're okay to do absolutely everything different. And it doesn't matter what the fuck anybody thinks. And so, again, like for myself, I'm speaking for myself in that sense of like, it's put me, I've used it as my fuel to help me push forward into what I want to do with my life. And man, it wasn't an easy journey. And to this day, like I still don't have support from family members, and I just can't relate to a lot of them too. And I'm okay with that. And because that's just showing me what I've been saying since I was a kid. Like there's different ways to live life. There's better ways and things to do. And you know, I'm pretty much the first one that has been able to literally like live on my own outside of where, you know, the family's from, and travel outside of the world on my own and see different places and do different things. And so, you know, the way I see it too, it's like now all of a sudden, you know, they know me. All of a sudden, you know, they see my success, but y'all weren't there when I was struggling. You feel me? And so to, you know, the soul tribe that's out there that believes in, you know, I don't believe that anybody who hasn't been there for you through your trials and through your tribulations of you struggling should that they don't deserve to see and be with you through your success. And I strongly believe in that, because that goes to show you the type of people that they are. And I've been shown the types of people that exist in my family, and which has led me to separating. And that's what happens, you know, in being in a single parent home, when there's no discipline, there's no communication, or there's no one saying anything. So it's like, man, I just feel like, okay, I'm just existing. Am I just existing? Like, what is this? And nobody wants to talk about it. So you're going to be forced to make your own choices and your own decisions. So it's really tough on you as a kid. And, you know, of course it's tough on the parents, but man, being a kid at like 12, younger, 8 years old, seeing like what is going on, you know, because we're the sponges, we're absorbing like what's going on. We're not in that full development of being an adult to where we're being very how do you say, like, not direct, but we're not fully grown in being able to conceptualize like this is this, that's that. We're still in our free spirit, we're in our soul, we're completely in our soul and in our hearts. So when you're around so much conflict and chaos, you start to wonder like why that is, and it makes you feel a certain way. And if you don't speak up about it, you're going to be caught in that vibration, in that cycle of things repeating and being and staying toxic, and then you aren't able to speak your truth. And so because your girl was able to speak her truth at such a young age, that put me in a position to where I'm at now. And it's, again, you know, it's crazy to see that my family sees me as something bigger than them. And it's like, you guys, it's really simple. It's just speaking our truth, you know? And so, again, it's, you know, religious beliefs and that old way of being and doing and all of it. And so it just doesn't vibe with me anymore. And unfortunately, as time goes on, as you get older, you build your own life, you build your own way of doing things, and you have to let go of what you were as a kid and know that those were lessons and experiences that you were meant to have to put you in this position of where you are today. Now, if you're still stuck in that cycle of traumatic experiences, caught up in bullshit ass, relationships, toxicity, you've chosen that. You're choosing that. And so we all have a choice of how we want to see our reality. We're our own creators of what we want to see day in and day out. And for a lot of people who are like, no, but I have so much of this, but you chose to have so much of that. You chose to be in that lack mentality. You chose to not speak your truth. You chose everything that you are doing up until this point of listening to this podcast. And so you can never, and that's the other thing, you can never project your shit onto people that have nothing to do with your shit, because you're the one that chose that. And so as a single parent mother, she speaking for her, I'm not a mother. As a single parent mother trying to figure out her emotions, she's projecting her insecurities and her ways of trying to express herself, because again, as I'm saying, like, coming from a dynamic of a belief system where you're not supposed to express yourself, she's trying to figure out, like, well, how do I get these emotions out? You feel me? And so that pushes that trauma onto the kids, us. And so then we're now like trying to figure out, like, was this my fault? You know what I mean? And so to the, parents out there, stop projecting on your fucking kids. You feel me? Like, figure out your traumas, figure out why you're still stuck in the past of the shit that you went through that has nothing to do with your kids. And don't think that that doesn't hurt your child. You're setting them up for fucking failure now. You feel me? When you're doing that to a child at such a young age, you're poisoning them. You're feeding them with fucking poison. So stop doing that. We're out here trying to raise, kings and queens and pure gods and goddesses out here. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And I've yet to find, that other half that wants to do that too. And so, but again, it's just, as you grow out of that phase of your life, as you start seeing that detachment of, like, you no longer relate to these people, you become that black sheep. You become, in their eyes, that black sheep. But in our eyes, we're just evolved human beings. We've just awakened to our reality. And that's a part of this soul awakening that happens. So we'll tap into what a soul awakening, because you have many of them. Your girls had many of them since a kid, man. Since a kid, I can't even tell you how many of awakenings I've had. And even to this day in my 30s, I'm still seeing the awakenings that are still evolving as I continue to heal and do this work and continue on the journey and understand that there's a higher purpose to this whole experience. And to know that anybody that has come from that single family home, it's okay to step out of the norm. It's okay to step out of the bubble. It's okay to step out of the box, fam. It's okay to speak your truth. It's okay to do whatever it is that your heart inside, because that's your compass. That's you being connected to God, your ancestors, the divine, whoever you pray to. Your soul is telling you the direction you need to go. And so you have to pay attention to that. It will never lead you astray. It will never lead you to the wrong place. It's going to put you in the most darkest and vulnerable places that you never want to see, only because of that fear mentality that creeps up, because of what if my parents don't, support me, that they're not meant to. And so we'll talk more about what a karmic family is, and you can even search what that is. And especially if you're a chosen one, you come into these karmic families to experience these harsh dramatic experiences so that later on in life you evolve from those experiences so that you're able to help and share your experiences to our brothers and sisters that are awakening into their purpose. And so here we are, family. Oh, to the gang. 11:44 on the clock, family. So with that being said, gang, continue to just follow your intuition, your heart, and heal all the traumas and past ish, fam. It's really, people think that it's hard, and it really isn't. Once you're able to just allow yourself to be vulnerable and break down and let that ego go, fam. And that's just what a lot of this is. It's, you know, ego based, it's fear based, it's low vibrational based. Once you're able to see that, there's no going back. And I'm okay with not going back, fam, because we're going to continue to elevate and educate our brothers and sisters and the masses that are out here searching for this medicine, knowing that you guys aren't in this alone. There's so many people out here going through similar things. It's so crazy to really think about that, you guys. But it's just a matter of who's able to speak about it in front of a camera. Really, it really is that simple. It really is just that. Who's able to be in front of the camera to talk about this so that we know, like, man, all right, that's reassuring. I know what that person went through because I went through that, you know? And so to be able to be relatable to you guys, I love that I can be. And this is what makes me want to continue to share some more of my experiences, because I know everybody's going through it. It's just, it's hard for some people to express that out, and I get it, because again, so many things, so many factors, and just know, fam, just, you know, continue to help yourselves, continue to find that way for yourself, continue to heal that part of yourself, continue to just heal. Take that time to step away from all distractions and things and people and places. Speaking of, your girl has been on her journey of being celibate and being in her monk mode. This is my second time doing this, and I've never thought I would be able to do something like this, because again, coming from where I came from and seeing, you know, the codependencies and abandonment issues that I had to like figure out, it took me years to figure out, like, man, I just need to step back and just clear my energy, clean myself. And the first time I went a whole year being celibate and sober. Now I'm on my second time around where I'm completely, it's a year and a half being celibate, sober, all of it. And I'm gonna continue on. And I think I'm at a point where I'm gonna continue to be this until I meet my match. You feel me? That's just what it is. Because I feel, you know, and it has a lot to do with your experience in life and your age too. You get to a point in time in some part of your awakening where you're just like, man, I just want to do better for myself now. I just want to do better for myself. I want to see better for myself. I want to just be better. I just want to, all that old ish and all that partying and all that bullshit and, you know, I gotta chase money. Yeah, there's ways to be happy and live life and have fun and not feel so beat down by life by just simply taking care of yourself. It's really that simple, but people think it's so hard to do for whatever reasons. And I don't know those reasons, but for my reasons and my experiences, I feel like it's not an excuse. Because I can sit here and tell you some harsher shit that your girl's gone through. So I'm a prime example of your girl surviving through a lot of abuse, a lot of addictions, a lot of toxicity of narcissistic human beings in my life. So, and we'll tap more into those conversations later, but coming from a single parent home, it does something to you as a child. And so any of my younger generations listening to this, if you're in a place in your life right now where you're just like, man, I don't know what the fuck is going on, I don't know, you know, which way to go. Meditation, baby, self-care, and really diving into your emotions and talking to yourself and praying to yourself and getting yourself into things that are going to make you happy inside, whether that's reading books, whether that's just even going for a walk, getting into something creative, go painting or go hiking. Do more of those things that are going to bring that childlike essence in your life day in and day out, family. If people aren't there supporting what you got going on, it's okay. There's no harsh judgments or grudges towards anybody. Just keep it moving with love. Keep taking care of yourself. Focus. Don't let people get you distracted. And keep it moving and stay strong, family. Ooh! To my next generation of warriors out here. My kings and queens out here. So, family, I hope this inspires you guys. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. We'll jump into more of other conversations within this topic, because we'll dive deeper dive so deep into these depths, fam. So I love and appreciate all you guys for being right here, following all the socials, TikTok, where else are we? YouTube, right here on SoundCloud, Instagram. So family, thank you guys a trillion times. Sending all my love to everybody from across the way. Shout out to all you guys. I'll tap in with you guys soon. Peace, fam. Mwah.